At great risk, a man going by Sebastian sits down with NewsNation. He wants to do this interview to send two messages. One, to the Sinaloa and Jalisco new generation cartels, he's hunting them. Two, to the women and children they've enslaved and sex trafficked, he's coming. Keep fighting. He says he's helped free more than 200 so far.
How young are some of these victims who are being trafficked?
Yeah, you're 12, 16, 14 when they get kidnapped or they're forced into it. But eventually they age and then they always find replacement.
He says it often starts with a family south of the border trying to cross into the U.S. illegally, paying the cartels. These days, he says often $15,000 a person.
The cartel looks at these individuals and is selecting for what?
If the young lady is pretty, woman or child is attractive, and they feel that they could sell that child or traffic that person or that child in one of their brothels, strip clubs, massage parlors, they'll just outright kidnap that person. And if they are with family members, they will either try to strategically say, well, she's going to go in a separate car. And then when they keep the girl, they'll just tell the family member, you know what? The cops pulled us over, they took her away, immigration has her, and then that's it. They never hear from her. They have to service, men, depending on the day of the week, as little as 5, 10 in one day to as many as 30, 40 in one night. None of the girls make any money. Some of them get promised that if they worked off up to a certain amount, they'll eventually be released. Usually $50,000, $100,000 that they have to make. But that goal line always gets moved.
Do a lot of women die in the course of all of this?
A lot of women die, a lot of women are murdered. For instance, Cartel Jalisco and the ladies, they felt that they had served their purpose and they just took them out to the outskirts of the city and murdered all of them. They knew the faces, the names of the Johns, which were politicians, police officers, business owners, and obviously the names and faces of their traffickers.
Sebastian knows he's fighting against time. As a confidential informant for federal agencies, he says he is not paid. It does afford him certain protection in the work that he does, and a network of intel and support that has been life-saving. For example, one agency warning him they'd learned he'd been compromised and not to go. As the director of rescue operations at New Hope Foundation International, his work is mostly funded by donations to the nonprofit. These are the methods he can disclose.
Once they trust you, they start offering you girls.
He befriends the traffickers and poses as a John. The challenge is reaching these women and never touching them without raising suspicion. One playbook he can disclose, gifting the women or children a cell phone.
That they say, oh, I like your phone. Oh, yeah, it's cool. I'm going to get another one. Would you like to keep this one after I get the new one? And they say, yeah, it's a $400, $600 phone, and they'll get it for free. Little do they know that coordinated efforts with the government, that phone has tools in there to monitor everything.
That cell phone is often what cracks the case wide open, giving the government what it needs to bust the sex ring. NewsNation spoke with former federal agent and director of the Human Trafficking Response Unit at the Office of the Oklahoma Attorney General, Kevin Metcalf.
He has, however, the trust, the resources, and the network to do things we can't. So when we tell him for example, there's a 13-year-old girl and we don't know if we can keep her safe, he can reach out and make sure that happens. So even for government officials, we struggle to do things like that.
Leon Worthen is former director of operations at Naval Special Warfare. He says he's worked 12 cases with Sebastian, using him in reconnaissance.
He is definitely the real deal. He has the ability and the fearlessness and the courage and the bravery to put himself in harm's way when it comes to rescuing a victim of trafficking or abuse. And every single time, the results are amazing.
What keeps him going is one child in particular, the little boy he was decades ago when no one came to save him.
When I was a child, I was sexually assaulted multiple times on 2 different occasions. And at that time, nothing was done to help me. It's hard to speak out. So I know that those kids find it hard to speak out once they fall in that trap.